Nothing unsettles a woman more than realizing the man she underestimated no longer needs her validation to feel whole. Most men react emotionally when they feel unseen. They argue. They chase. They explain themselves again and again. They try to prove their loyalty harder, hoping she finally understands what she is losing. But that desperation slowly destroys the very respect they are trying to protect. Because the moment a woman feels your self-worth depends on her attention, the balance changes. She may stop valuing your consistency because she assumes it will always be there. She may stop respecting your presence because you keep offering it even when she gives confusion in return. And without realizing it, you begin teaching her that no matter how little she gives, you will still stay. But my friend, the real shift happens the moment you stop. Not loudly, not dramatically, not with revenge or bitterness. You simply become unavailable to disrespect. You stop feeding her ego. You stop over-explaining your heart. You stop chasing mixed signals. You stop trying to force clarity from someone committed to confusion. And suddenly, the energy changes. Because silence hits differently when it comes from a man who finally found peace within himself. In this video, we are breaking down what truly affects a woman when she no longer values you. Why emotional detachment carries more power than arguments. How self-respect changes relationship dynamics. And why your calm disappearance often speaks louder than your anger ever could. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may completely change the way you walk away from people who only valued your attention, not your heart. Let's begin. Number 1. Stop feeding her ego. Let's be honest, folks. Sometimes a woman is not attached to you emotionally. She is attached to the access she has to your attention. That is the truth most men refuse to face. She enjoys knowing you will answer instantly. She enjoys knowing you will explain yourself. She enjoys knowing you will still stay warm even after she becomes cold. And every time you reward inconsistency with more effort, you strengthen the belief that your standards are weak. Take Daniel, 51, from Phoenix. He was dating a woman named Melissa, 45. In the beginning, she was affectionate, attentive, and emotionally present. But slowly the dynamic changed. Some days she was loving. Other days, she vanished emotionally without explanation. Whenever she pulled away, Daniel chased harder. If she became distant, he sent longer texts. If she canceled plans, he reassured her. If she acted cold, he softened himself even more. At first, he believed he was being patient and emotionally mature. But eventually he realized something painful. Melissa had learned she could give him less and still receive his best. That is how ego gets fed. She no longer had to earn his energy because he kept giving it freely. She no longer had to respect consistency because inconsistency still brought rewards. Then one evening, she canceled dinner again with a careless message. The old Daniel would have replied immediately with understanding and reassurance. But this time he simply answered, "Understood. Take care." No emotional speech. No guilt trip. No dramatic goodbye. And after that, he stopped over-investing. When she reached out later pretending nothing happened, he remained calm and emotionally neutral. He stopped rewarding the pattern. That is where masculine power returns. Not through anger. Not through jealousy. Not through manipulation. Power returns when your attention is no longer available to someone who treats it casually. A Stoic man does not beg people to value him. He quietly removes access where value is missing. And when the emotional supply disappears, the silence becomes louder than any argument ever could. If you are done rewarding disrespect with devotion, write this in the comments. I stopped chasing. Because the next lesson explains why silence affects people more deeply than emotional reactions ever will. Number 2. Let silence become heavy. Most men misunderstand silence. They think ignoring her for a few hours is silence. They think posting sad quotes online is silence. They think disappearing temporarily while secretly waiting for a reaction is silence. No, my friend, that is still emotional dependence. Real silence is peaceful. Real silence does not perform. It does not announce itself. It does not secretly beg for attention. It simply removes your presence from a place where your energy was no longer appreciated. Epictetus once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And many men suffer because they keep replaying conversations that no longer matter. You explain your pain repeatedly, hoping she finally understands. You defend your intentions, hoping she finally sees your loyalty. You keep reopening emotional wounds, trying to gain closure from someone who benefits from your confusion. But eventually a man reaches a point where he understands. Not everyone deserves continued access to his emotions. Take Anthony, 54, from Chicago. He spent months trying to communicate calmly with a woman named Rebecca. Every disagreement turned into emotional exhaustion. He explained himself constantly, while she kept twisting his words into something else. One night he finally stopped. No final paragraph. No emotional breakdown. No dramatic exit. He simply became quiet. And for the first time, Rebecca no longer had access to his emotional reactions. That silence disturbed her more than arguments ever did. Why? Because anger still proves emotional attachment. Arguments still prove investment. Long explanations still prove she occupies your mind. But peaceful silence sends a colder message. My peace no longer depends on your understanding. That changes everything. A Stoic man understands that silence is not punishment. It is self-protection. And once your energy stops feeding unhealthy dynamics, people suddenly feel the emptiness they once ignored. So let your silence become disciplined. No emotional bait. No hidden messages. No checking constantly to see if she noticed. Return your attention to your purpose, your health, your discipline, and your future. That is where real strength begins. If you are ready to let silence speak for you, write this below. I choose silence. Because the next move changes the entire power dynamic. Number 3. Take back your access. Listen carefully, my friend. She did not control you. She controlled the access she had to your emotions. Access to your attention. Access to your availability. Access to your patience. Access to your reassurance. Access to your emotional energy. And many women become attached to that access long before they become attached to the man himself. Take Michael, 56, from Atlanta. He was involved with a woman named Lauren. She would disappear emotionally for days, then suddenly return acting warm again. And every time she came back, Michael welcomed her immediately. Late-night texts? He answered instantly. Mixed signals? He tolerated them. Disrespect? He minimized it. Eventually, Lauren learned something dangerous. No matter how she behaved, Michael would remain emotionally available. But one evening, after another cycle of confusion, Michael finally saw the pattern clearly. Instead of chasing clarity, he quietly closed the door. When Lauren reached out late at night again, he responded calmly. I'm no longer available for inconsistency. That was it. No anger. No speech. No emotional performance. Just boundaries. And that changes everything. Because your presence is not public property. A Stoic man protects his peace like something sacred. He understands that unlimited access without accountability destroys respect. So stop making yourself emotionally available to people who treat your loyalty casually. Stop being reachable every time they feel lonely. Stop becoming emotional comfort for someone who gives you emotional confusion in return. The moment access becomes limited, value becomes visible. And suddenly the person who took your energy for granted begins feeling your absence in a way your arguments never achieved. If you are ready to protect your emotional energy, write this in the comments. I take back access. Because the next lesson explains why peace unsettles people more than emotional chaos. Number 4. Let peace disturb her. Here is the truth most men never realize. Your anger does not disturb her nearly as much as your peace does. Anger still means emotional attachment. Jealousy still means emotional dependence. Arguments still mean she occupies your mind. But peace tells a completely different story. Peace says, I survived your absence and rediscovered myself. That hits differently. Marcus Aurelius wrote, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Her moods are outside events. Her inconsistency is outside events. Her validation is outside events. But your inner calm belongs to you. And once you stop allowing another person's behavior to control your emotional state, you become difficult to manipulate. Take Stephen, 53, from Seattle. After years of emotional instability with a woman named Nicole, he finally stopped reacting. Instead of obsessing over her behavior, he rebuilt his life. He trained consistently. He repaired friendships. He improved his sleep. He focused on work. He stopped posting for attention. He stopped checking her social media. And eventually something happened. Nicole noticed he was no longer emotionally available for chaos. Not because he became cold, because he became grounded. That is the difference. Real peace is not performative. It does not need witnesses. It does not need revenge. It does not need validation. And when a woman realizes your peace is genuine, she begins understanding that her absence did not destroy your identity. That realization shakes people deeply, because the man she expected to remain emotionally trapped has quietly evolved beyond her reach. If you are ready to protect your peace, right? I protect my peace. Because the next lesson reveals why explaining yourself repeatedly destroys masculine power. Number 5. Stop explaining your heart. Let's be real, folks. A man loses strength when he keeps explaining his value to someone determined not to see it. You think one more conversation will fix things. One more explanation will finally make her understand. One more emotional confession will finally soften her heart. But if she wanted clarity, she would have listened before your soul became exhausted. Take Robert, 55, from Miami. Every disagreement with his girlfriend Elena turned into emotional interrogation. If he expressed hurt, she called him sensitive. If he asked for respect, she accused him of pressure. If he communicated honestly, she twisted the conversation into his fault. And Robert kept explaining, until one night he stopped. During another argument, Elena said, "You make everything complicated." Normally, Robert would have defended himself for another hour. But instead, he calmly replied, "You already understand me. I'm just done repeating myself." Then he walked away peacefully. That moment changed everything. Because your heart is not something that should constantly stand trial for someone else's convenience. A Stoic man speaks clearly once. After that, he watches behavior. If someone repeatedly misunderstands you after honest communication, more words usually create more manipulation. And many men do not realize this. Constant explanations give people a map to your emotional weak spots. They learn exactly where your fears live, exactly where your guilt lives, exactly where your emotional triggers live. So stop defending your intentions endlessly. Your energy deserves better than constant emotional courtrooms. Speak honestly. Set boundaries. Then let actions reveal the truth. If you are done over-explaining your heart, write this below. I explain less. Because the next lesson shows how emotional self-control breaks unhealthy dynamics quietly. Number 6. Break her control quietly. A woman only controls you emotionally when your reactions remain predictable. If one cold message ruins your peace, she has influence. If one moment of softness erases your boundaries, she has influence. If one mood swing changes your emotional state, she has influence. And the way you break that control is not through aggression. It is through composure. A Stoic man becomes difficult to manipulate because he stops reacting impulsively. He pauses before responding. He observes instead of panicking. He stops treating emotional chaos like an emergency. And eventually the entire dynamic changes. Because emotionally reactive men are easy to control. Calm men are not. When you stop reacting automatically, people suddenly realize their old tactics no longer work. That is quiet power. Not loud dominance. Not revenge. Not cruelty. Just emotional discipline. And once your inner world no longer depends on another person's behavior, real freedom begins. Number 7. Thrive beyond her reach. Nothing affects someone more deeply than watching the person they underestimated become stronger without them. Not fake strength. Not social media performances. Real growth. The kind that changes your habits, your mindset, your discipline, and your energy. Take Chris, 58, from Denver. After years of emotional confusion with a woman named Amanda, he stopped centering his life around the relationship. Instead, he rebuilt himself. He returned to the gym. He rebuilt his business focus. He repaired family relationships. He cleaned up his routines. He stopped tolerating emotional inconsistency. Months later, Amanda saw him again at a public event. And for the first time, she noticed something different. He looked calm, grounded, focused, present. There was no emotional hunger left in his eyes. That is what thriving beyond someone's reach looks like. Not becoming cold, becoming complete. A Stoic man does not improve himself to make someone regret losing him. He improves himself because self-respect demands growth after pain. And when your life no longer revolves around someone else's validation, your energy becomes powerful naturally. If you are ready to rise above emotional dependence, right? I rise higher. Because the next lesson reveals why peace always wins over emotional drama. Number 8. Choose peace over drama. Drama survives through participation. The moment you stop participating, it begins losing power. Many men confuse emotional intensity with deep connection. But constant anxiety is not love. Confusion is not chemistry. Emotional instability is not passion. Sometimes your nervous system simply became addicted to chaos. A Stoic man learns the difference. He stops entertaining arguments designed only to drain him. He stops defending himself endlessly. He stops mistaking emotional exhaustion for romance. And instead, he chooses peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to become like them." That matters deeply. If someone brings chaos, you do not answer with more chaos. If someone manipulates emotionally, you do not become manipulative yourself. You simply remove yourself from unhealthy environments. Calmly, quietly, completely. That is emotional maturity. And once people realize their drama no longer controls your state of mind, your value becomes impossible to ignore. Number 9. Become hard to use. Here is a painful truth, my friend. People only use the energy you keep giving away without standards. Your time, your attention, your loyalty, your emotional support. If someone receives all of those things without respecting you in return, they eventually stop seeing your presence as valuable. It becomes expected. A Stoic man understands that kindness without boundaries becomes self-destruction. So he becomes selective. Not cruel, not bitter. Selective. He no longer gives unlimited access to people who contribute emotional instability. He no longer rewards inconsistency with devotion. His attention becomes earned. And suddenly people feel the difference. Because disciplined warmth carries more value than desperate availability ever will. Number 10. Leave as the blessing. Let's finish this properly, my friend. The final move is not revenge. The final move is dignity. When someone repeatedly undervalues you, leave cleanly. No begging. No final emotional essay. No dramatic exit scene. Just self-respect. Because a blessing does not beg to be recognized. It simply leaves. And sometimes your absence teaches lessons your presence never could. You know what you gave. You know how patient you were. You know the nights you stayed loyal while feeling emotionally exhausted. Now take that energy back home to yourself. Not with hatred, with wisdom. A Stoic man understands that some people do not lose you because you were unworthy. They lose you because they were unable to recognize your value while they had access to it. And once you understand that, you stop begging for appreciation from emotionally unavailable people. You protect your peace instead. Today we talked about what truly affects a woman when she stops valuing you. You learned why silence carries power, why emotional control changes relationship dynamics, why self-respect matters more than validation, and why peace becomes your strongest weapon. This is not about punishing women. It is about rebuilding yourself. A strong man does not force people to value him. He becomes disciplined enough to walk away from places where his loyalty is treated casually. If this video gave you clarity, Subscribe for more content on Stoicism, masculine discipline, emotional control, and self-respect. Stay grounded, stay disciplined, and remember this. The strongest man in the room is usually the one who no longer needs to prove his value to anyone.